why are you doing all this? Why did you want to be an electrical engineering computer science student at Berkeley? Why are you an e-commerce founder? Why are you, I guess, all of these things at once? What is driving you?
Honestly, I think my situation growing up, I could say it's kind of like a fear of going back to that.
All right, thank you for tuning into the Nagomi podcast today. I'm your host Sean Obana, and today we're going to explore how can you succeed in these three different lanes: tech, entrepreneurship, business, without burning out or selling out. So today we're going to have our special guest Enrique Guzman, who is a electrical engineering and computer science major at UC Berkeley. He is also a software engineer at Blackrock, a former software engineer at Amazon, and a e-commerce founder who got involved with such intense and highly successful disciplines. And we're going to uncover the why he's doing it, how he got into what he's doing. And we'll also go into how people can get started in the tech and finance world, and also examine whether he's chasing his passions or corporate, right? The whole point of this series. So I hope you enjoy this one. How did it all start? Walk me through the first thing you built or sold. Was it code? Was it a product or was it an idea?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I ever sold was an app. And it was pretty simple, but the navigation system that I built was actually not bad since I was around 14 years old. So I sold it to Apple actually, and I don't think they ended up using it, but it was more very interesting to me knowing that like these high-level engineers saw an interest in what I could build. And I don't think they ended up using it, but that's kind of like where I got my first internships in software. And that like pretty much got me into creating things in general.
What was it? Can you describe it or is it kind of confidential?
I don't know, it's pretty simple. Basically, my family argues a lot about where to go eat. And so the navigation system is just like based on your location and a cuisine that you're feeling. It'll just route you to the closest restaurant, but won't tell you the name. So it's kind of a surprise.
So how
And
did you get how did you start building it? Was it with your friends or did you just do it all on yourself by yourself?
no, yeah, this is all by myself. I pretty much ChatGPT didn't exist at the time, so it was more like I was reading forums. This was like a language that I didn't touch yet, but I knew that something that was like an app on my phone was the most relevant to me. And so I just pieced it together, honestly, and got it done in like 3 months.
Wow. So how did you learn how to do that? And how did you know that you could build what you wanted to build?
Honestly, I feel like a lot of people say this, but I never thought that I couldn't. You just do it, and then if you want it bad enough, like you'll keep pushing yourself. Like there were days where, in anything that I've created, where I could not sleep, just knowing that there was work that needed to be done, and like my brain is not satisfied until it's completed.
Wow. That's pretty inspirational. And did you always see yourself as I guess going into business and tech, or was it something that you learned about early on? And how did you know that you wanted to get into the field that you're in?
Yeah, so my whole career, or I mean, I'm still a child, but my whole mindset with school was always tech. I mean, you hear it with like software, these huge paychecks, these stock options, Nvidia blowing up. I wanted to be around these things. And so that's why I picked up the coding courses. I made my own projects. I interned with like Apple, Facebook, Amazon. I just wanted to be in these spaces. But then when I got my paychecks, I was like pretty disappointed. Even with these like six-figure salaries, like the monthly breakdown is not the kind of lifestyle that I was expecting. Like I don't know, getting paid 10,000 a month sounds nice until 20 or 35% goes to taxes.
Right.
and like rent takes up a huge chunk. Like it just wasn't what I wanted. And that's what drove me to like business and owning my own thing on the side.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit more about your e-commerce store now. What do you sell? How did you scale to tens of thousands of sales?
Yeah. I mean, I'm in women's loungewear. I think the women's niche is the most popular because I just think it allows for the most creativity. I mean, women are like very intricate and how hold a lot of thoughts, while I think men are more like either I like it or I don't.
Mm,
Women have like a lot of creative expressions, and I feel like that's what I align with more. And so my product is essentially the way that I describe it is I sell to women who don't like to bring outside clothes into their bedroom.
mm.
Very like hygiene oriented women.
So describe a little bit more of like what your product is. Like what would you sell? Is it a range of products or is it just one thing? How does that kind of work? What's your day to day like?
Yeah, I mean, with the model, you usually start with one product, and that's usually reselling. So the product already exists, and then there's like a proof of concept test where you will run that product, and if it does well, then you customize it and brand it. So that's kind of the model, but it's pretty much a two-piece lounge set. I think the shorts are comparable to Brandy Melville's. They're like these cute like short shorts and
Hmm.
like pastel colors. And then the top is like relatively loose and cropped. But girls like it because it makes them feel like good about themselves. And I've also like been able to angle it to where guys get it for their girlfriend as well as like a just because
Gift.
gift. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Awesome. And so how does that work? Because you don't hold any of the inventory, right? It's all just you buy it, you find a seller and then you have your supplier, right? And it just goes directly. You're just the middleman, right? Is that how it works?
Yeah. I mean, that is the traditional drop shipping model. Once you get to bigger scale, obviously people don't like knowing that their products come from China.
Hmm.
And so at that point, I would do a bulk customized order and then fulfill from a US warehouse. But just starting out, yeah, like I have a supplier in China and then yeah, I'm just a middleman. I market, I brand, pretty much like it could be called white labeling to be honest.
Hmm.
Um, but a lot of the value is in how you make the customer feel. And if you can do that properly, then they're willing to throw money at you, to be honest.
Awesome. So being the broker, how do you fulfill or how do you balance all of this fulfillment, marketing, and customer service while also being a full-time electrical engineering and computer science student?
Yeah, I don't know if there's a balance, to be honest. I mean, I noticed it myself. Like when I do good in school, I do really good in school. And then when I do good and like my numbers are blowing up, my grades just like tank. So it's kind of a sacrifice. You have to pick and choose, but I've been okay with letting my grades just be passing. And just knowing that the time is now to like work on the store. I feel like you can always go back to school, but you don't always have a winner right in front of you.
Mhm. So how did you feel that conviction, or what was that tipping point that made you feel that conviction like, wow, this is real, this is really paying off all this hard work into my e-commerce store, right? What was that point? Was it ever like you started out and was like, dang, I don't know if this is it. I don't know if I'm really going to be successful at this. What was that tipping point that told you this is it? This is for me?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it was when my store hit 10,000 in one day. I
Wow.
think, I
10,000
think
sales or 10,000 revenue?
in revenue, in revenue.
Revenue. That's a
Sales,
lot.
I
Mhm.
wouldn't even be in California at that point. No, it was revenue. And like the profit margin on that is like 20, 30%. And so
That's pretty good. Hmm.
yeah, and that's like enough to sustain me just from like a single day. And so that kind of told me that whatever school I was doing, like even if I reached the managing director level, I don't know if you'd be touching that kind of money. Um,
Right.
and so that just like was like a wake up call, and it was like I just covered my rent in a single day. Imagine if I like kept pushing this and I was able to grow it even further. Like I want to get bigger again, but at my like tipping point, I guess, or highest point, we were able to clear like 50,000 in a single day. And to me, like obviously like where I come from, that is like money that you don't even that's like what they talk about in the movies or something, or what you see on social media. And so just knowing that I did that on my own, I didn't even have a team at this point. I did it on my own. I was like, if I can like systemize this and automate things, I think we could maintain this for a long time. And that's what I've been working on recently.
That's really cool. So you are interning at Blackrock right now, or you're going to this summer?
Yeah, I'm currently there, so that's
So
where
you're currently there. So
yeah.
what was it like, I guess, going from side hustle mode, I call it, to high stakes tech work? I think you were also working at Amazon as well previously last summer, so maybe you're pretty used to it. But what was it like, I guess, going from your own startup thing to an actual corporate job?
Yeah, it's pretty humbling. Um, I mean, it's a weird feeling knowing that like maybe I'm getting like my side thing makes as much as my manager. So that like feeling goes away. And now it's more like I'm just here to learn as much as possible. So it's pretty satisfying knowing that I don't need that money to survive. I can just do it because I want to. And that's what I like about the job. Like I'm pushed to just use my brain and I don't feel stressed about anything else. It's just, yeah.
That's really cool. And I guess, I mean, you're a software engineer at BlackRock. That's a pretty prestigious thing. So do you have any prep tips? Do you have any maybe unexpected lessons you've learned preparing to get there or being there?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the biggest thing is honestly, I feel like a lot of people just leak code and raw apply when I feel like when everybody's doing that, it's very difficult to stand out.
Hmm.
Especially with like AI checkers and just resume drops. Like you're just a number. Like even me, like I'm just a number. The amount of people at Berkeley that are like insane at school is kind of intimidating. And so I think the workaround for most like average or above average people is to connect and then take shots through there. Connect with people that work there, like MDs, vice presidents, just like managers, asking around and getting like your foot through the door that way, because most companies offer internal referrals, and that usually like moves the process along quicker. Raw applications for most people that I know, and even myself, like just never work.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And so to our conversation, to our series called Passion or Corporate, right? Why are you doing all this? Why did you want to be an electrical engineering computer science student at Berkeley? Why are you an e-commerce founder? Why are you, I guess, all of these things at once? What is driving you?
Honestly, I think my situation growing up, I could say it's kind of like a fear of going back to that. Like I just never want to feel that way again. And it's also about wanting to build something that's bigger than you. I feel like a lot of people in America want to like own something. They want to create something, but it's also very scary making that jump when your job is paying you just enough to survive and get by. Like it's just enough, but you hardly have any savings. And so I kind of wanted to be able to escape that feeling. And so like no matter how comfortable my paycheck is, I always feel like it's not enough and like I want more consistently. And so like yeah, just given my like situation growing up, I saw my parents like be comfortable with just getting by. And that kind of like drove me to not want to do that.
So on this podcast, wow, I'm getting like a little shivers there, tingles there, because we talk on this podcast about money is now a means of survival, right? It's like our emotions are now tied to money in a different way than we ever thought. We used to always fear, well, there's a lion gonna attack us, we're gonna die,
Yeah.
physical pain, right? But we now feel this pain because of financial reasons, because of money. If we aren't having a recurring money or income, well, then that could lead to death because we don't have money anymore. It's not stable. It's not consistent, and so it evokes these emotions of fear and anxiety and all of these things that we don't completely understand yet. So I really appreciate you sharing that very vulnerable piece. And so I guess, which do you identify with more? An entrepreneur, an engineer, or something entirely else?
I haven't thought of that. It's actually interesting. I feel honestly like a creative engineer because I've noticed this, especially at Berkeley, a lot of engineers are like machines. They are very good at what they do. But if you task them with creating something on their own from scratch without motivation, without a guaranteed paycheck, people struggle, people crumble. It's like it's kind of a joke, honestly. I always saw myself as someone who found a way out when there was no way out. And honestly, like that's what's kept me alive. And when you apply that to something like a business, it goes a long way. The amount of times my like bank has been frozen or supply fulfillment gets screwed up or like my email person isn't responding correctly, like these would like that amount of pressure would break people a lot. But that creative side and like just having like the technical mindset at the same time kind of allows you to build systems that keep you like alive during those hard times. And so yeah, honestly, I side more with the creativity. But I feel like that struggles a lot when you're not technical as well.
I think just going back to your struggle, I think, what do you think? Do you think that people are only able to succeed so far and accomplish what they want to do because of that fire, because of the struggle that they experienced and the fear of going back to that previous experience? Do you think that that's the driver, or that people are out there able to just say, I'm just going to do this because I really want to do this? Or is it a combination of both? What do you think?
Yeah. I was like, let me get it straight. Okay. No, I think that's actually something that I've been talking to my other like econ buddies about. And I think initially, like, say you touch your first 1,000, 10,000, I think that satisfies the fear. Now it's at the point to where I do it because I like want to be competitive. I want to prove that my ideas, like, keep in mind, like I'm competing against like billion-dollar brands and like finding my little niche. Just knowing that I can find my little pocket is satisfying to me. That's more passion. The fear at this point is gone. Like I've satisfied that myself. Now it's like, okay, I've done it out of fear, but now like what can I do when like there's no motivation? It's just I think that's just discipline at that point.
Mm. So I guess the big question here would be, what would you choose, passion or corporate? Because it seems like, I mean, you're managing to do both while learning in both. You're also having a formal education. To me, that's just crazy, right? You're a full-time analyst, or you're a full-time software engineer at Blackrock. You're a full-time student, let alone at Berkeley, being an electrical engineer and computer science student. And then you're also running this very successful e-commerce platform. So which would you choose if you had to choose one?
Honestly, I think it's a timing thing. If I could just pick one, I would pick the brand. The problem is I think it's always good to have a safety net. And so I wouldn't mind having to fall back on my corporate job or my education to then save enough money to push back my like business. Um, I just think I've always been like, I take risks, but I also think that they're more calculated. And so I'd pick the brand any day, but it's always good to have the safety net. Like a software job isn't as like a software job as a backup plan isn't so bad.
So for me, I think that creating something myself is very internally meaningful, and I get a lot of meaning out of doing things that I guess that I'm only able to do one, but that I'm also solving a problem. So do you think that what you're selling on what is it, Shopify, that
Yeah,
platform? So your ecom, right? So do you feel like there's a lot of meaning coming from that because you're solving a problem? And if so, what is that problem you're solving?
that's a fair question. I feel like at the start, I think everybody has good intentions when they're trying to make money. I think to me, at first, it was just about the numbers. But then after reading all my emails, like this actually affects people's lives, like how they feel, how they respond, the quality of the material, like the shipping times. Like Amazon one day delivery has like been my biggest enemy because they can do that. But I think honestly, I think that in terms of impact, I just want to make people feel a certain type of way. And so obviously I get feedback of what people want to feel. I do my own market research of like, I know summer trends, like people want to sleep better. And I try to like fit my product to that. But that's like the whole thing. I want people to feel some type of way. Maybe like I'm not curing cancer or like making someone's life easier, but I am causing them to have a feeling. Like it's nice knowing that a couple somewhere is happy because my product allowed their man to gift the girl something. And the stories I hear are actually pretty cute.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I guess what's your advice for someone who would want to start an online business? I think maybe you can speak a little bit about how you actually got into e-commerce. Where did that start?
Yeah. I think I've always been into like the common side hustles. So I detailed cars. I did the car washes. I did like my own pretty crappy clothing brand. I think I tried reselling digital products like Etsy or something. And I also did copywriting for people. So I did like all the Andrew Tate type side hustles at some point. But then drop shipping to me was like the most crazy and like fun thing possible because I've always been like a creative. Like I did photography and I edited videos for people at some point. And to me, like just knowing that that's all the job was, pretty much finding something that people like and then being a better marketer. And, like that model seemed so enticing to me because I could do that from anywhere just on my laptop. I didn't have to go scrub people's cars or something. In terms of how I actually got into it, I paid someone to teach me. He's actually one of my close friends now. And for a good 9 months, I was kind of like an apprentice who was stupid. I was called an idiot a lot, and I just lost a bunch of money. But when I got my first sale, like that, like brought the motivation back. And then I just kept on it, and I saw the numbers just like keep going up.
So, how important is it to stay in it, especially right when you fail? I think a lot of times, especially in investing, people will make an investment, whether it's in their e-commerce store, maybe it's in their own entrepreneurial thing, or maybe it's in stocks, right? But
Yeah.
they mess up, right? So, why is it so important to keep going? And like, what do you learn from that failure?
I feel like that is the value. That's what makes it worth it. I mean, if anything worked on the first time, I feel like everybody would do it. And like even with drop shipping in general, the bar to entry is pretty low. Like you need 50, $100. But due to that low barrier to entry, the failure rate is insane. That's like basic math. And so it's more about how much better do you think you are than the people around you entering that space. And maybe at the start I wasn't so sure, but at this point, I've created new things from scratch that do well and outperform other people. And like I just know that I can do it. And obviously like there's always going to be better people, but I'm good enough to where I found my pocket. and you don't really find that confidence in yourself until you see some sort of results. But I mean, with enough time, I feel like with anything that you try hard enough in, result will come at some point.
So, do you experience imposter syndrome? And was there ever a point where it almost got you to stop?
Uh, yeah, I mean, honestly, I feel like I trauma blocked it, but I stopped like 2 times. I quit for like a month or so because keep in mind, like I'm in college. I was starting this with like the bit of savings that I had. Instead of like going out to eat with my friends, I'd be like, oh, I can't, I'm in debt. Like I just spent like $100 on ads. Like, sorry, I can't go out. But I think that, I mean, I don't know, like you're taking a risk, obviously, and you have to be okay with that. But in terms of imposter syndrome, like, yeah, I mean, it's pretty intimidating, like seeing people do this at like 15, pulling in 100K. But once you do it, it's like it all goes away. I feel like it's all worth it once you get it done.
So then do you think that that what drives any successful person and anything that there's guaranteed fail throughout it, right? And so that requires an immense self-confidence and almost a disillusionment where you're like, wow, I can do this and nobody else is going to stop me. So how do you find that self-confidence when in drop shipping or in e-commerce, there's a low barrier to entry, there's higher competition, there's a lot of imposter syndrome. What gives you that confidence, maybe besides just seeing the numbers? Because you need to have confidence going into it before you even see the numbers. So what is it that gives you that confidence?
I think there's two things. One is obviously I had a mentor who had results, and I think that is something that people are scared to admit. Like, I think people have like an ego where if they had some help along the way, maybe it wasn't like pure talent. But honestly, every single successful person I've talked to had at some point someone give them a pointer. And so I value mentorship a lot. Even in my like day career, I'm always talking to the MDs and the vice presidents and the managers. Honestly, I feel like they're already doing what you're doing. Why not like get help on that? So that helps with like give you direction. But then it comes to how bad do you want it? And so I think at that point, I mean, if you really say like you want to change your lifestyle, you want better for yourself, and I feel like most people are working like these 9 to 5s. The lifestyle is really annoying, and like just knowing that you're barely making enough to make ends meet, I feel like that should convince you bad enough to want better for yourself. And like, I don't know, if you really take yourself serious, I feel like you don't stop until something happens.
Awesome. So I think right now is probably the peak of male depression and all of that. And it's a little bit of a tangent, but I'm curious, how important is one self-teaching, but mentorship and getting help and seeking help? I think that a lot of young men are just scared, flat out scared to get help because they don't want to be seen as to other people as, okay, I want to be independent. They think that, okay, being independent is going to attract other people, right? But how important is that seeking help and why is it so important?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. There's like a side tangent here, but before like I get into that, I feel like it just logically makes sense. Like me as an individual can only do so much compared to 3 people who may not be as smart. Like the output in the long term is just they will probably end up doing 3 times as much as I can. And that applies to like everything. That applies to like creative output, knowledge, research. When you're doing everything on your own, like you can find something, but a team with a system in place will always outperform you. I mean, that's why like I feel like that's why every big company had like a super strong team. Maybe one person had the idea, but they always built a team. And so when it comes to like being embarrassed, like the ego checks, I feel like social media drove a lot of that. But I feel like the people who like I don't know, I feel like this is like an Andrew Tate, David Goggins type of conversation. And I really feel like those people at some point had someone that gave them direction or like scared them into a certain path, or they like were inspired by someone at some point. There's nobody I know that has actually found success and didn't admit that at some point they fell and needed hope.
Awesome. So now maybe something a little bit more fun. What is the first thing that you check in the morning? Like for me, I love looking at the market. So the first thing I open up is the stock market. I'm always looking at how are my stocks doing? What's the market doing? What are some maybe the volatility and all that stuff. So for you, what's the first thing you check in the morning?
Yeah, I mean honestly, it's the notifications on my phone. It's kind of cool if you like download the Shopify app, like, and you have sales, like you just scroll and you just see like order, 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 order. That's pretty cool. And then if you open the app, you see the dashboard. And then I have like a last 30 days like revenue dashboard. And it's just satisfying, like knowing that the work I did the previous night still kept what I have going in the morning. And then that's like, oh, okay, like that paid for my Chipotle, so I can have lunch today. Like that's my morning. And then I'll just check on like the ads, make sure nothing's going too like volatile, and like I might budget correct if I need to.
Awesome. And last thing, what's the most overrated piece of advice that you've received?
That's interesting. Overrated, like something that people say pretty often. Um, I feel like, I mean, I might have even just said this like on this podcast, but I get really annoyed when people say to like just do it or like just don't give up and like you'll get there. I think there's a lot of like nuances in between there. And like honestly, just like a bunch of caveats. Like there's so many holes and like so many dips. I feel like to address that, it's like obviously you don't want to give up, but everybody needs direction at some point. And like I feel like that's where like one, you ground yourself like on your values and like maybe remember why you're doing things in the first place. But then again, like it's also like I feel like the people around you will inspire you the most. And so obviously don't give up, but lean on the people and like build a proper support system and high value network that you can lean on.
Cool. So Shopify by day, Blackrock software engineer by summer. Our guest this week built a full e-commerce business while studying electrical engineering and computer science at UC Berkeley. He joins the NAGOMI podcast series Passion or Corporate to share how he juggles ambition, internships, and purpose, and why you don't have to choose just one path. Thank you, Enrique, for joining us today, and thank you to our listeners for tuning in to NAGOMI.